Welcome back, everybody. Again, if you could like and subscribe and share this video, it'd be a great help for us here to grow the channel. Thank you. This is the phenomena of feeling as though one has lived through the present situation before. It is an illusion of memory whereby, despite a strong sense of recollection, the time, place, and context of the previous experience are uncertain or impossible. Deja-vu has struck me often throughout my life. The first vivid memory I had of this phenomena was all the way back in high school. I remember sitting in math class, zoning out at my desk, flipping my pen against the book with my head in my hand, sighing, just aching to get out of that class. I wasn't a fan of math. Well, wasn't a fan of school for that matter, but math especially. I checked the clock on the wall, and as I looked at the hands of the clock, there it was. A glitch. I immediately had the sense that I had been there before, thinking the exact same events leading up to that moment when I looked at the clock and had this feeling. There was no single moment. It carried with it a good 5 minutes of seemingly reliving these moments twice. And the important part here is I didn't feel like I remembered this. I felt like I'd lived this moment before. Like my life suddenly felt like it was on some sort of replay and the record skipped. It was like my mind physically glitched. Of course, I didn't know what a glitch was back then. It just happened. A sudden rush of fight or flight pulsated through my body as I looked around to see if anyone else had the same effect happen to them. They all seemed normal. I felt like something significant had just occurred and I had no idea what it meant. Such an insignificant and mundane event suddenly had a universe-shaking significance. Was something changed? It stuck with me for the rest of the class. I didn't even care what time it was anymore. When I finished, I left and went to the next class. Eventually, I let it pass out of my head. I didn't think about it much until the next time I remembered having it. The next time I remember having my deja vu was on a dark night. My best friend was driving his car out on the back roads of our small town. The streets were pretty sparse and unpopulated with traffic. His girlfriend was in the front passenger seat and me behind her in the back. For some reason, he had decided to start speeding, and he kept going faster and faster, kind of laughing to himself. It was one of those moments when you're young and you have something just kind of take over you. He didn't really have any real reason for it, or maybe he wanted to scare his girlfriend, or he just wanted to have some kicks. I was in the back egging him on because I was having fun. She was telling him to slow down, and it was then that it happened. He lost control of the car and it skidded and twisted and went off the road. As this began to happen, I had another deja vu. Now this happened, the car going off the road happened right as I immediately thought, like an instant, that I've lived this moment before and I knew we would survive. And this was happening at the same time the car slid off the road and into the ditch. We all got out, his girlfriend yelling at how stupid he was, and I sat there laughing, looking up at the sky and thinking, what did that mean? These events were the types of deja vu I had experienced that I don't remember seeing it beforehand, but there were times that in an event I remembered having had this experience in a dream before. Sometimes the dream was years previous that stuck with me for some reason. When the deja vu happened, it was sort of like a eureka moment. Some people experience both of these, while others seem to have one or the other. The ones who have these dream versions clearly see it as a premonition, often reported having them come in quick succession and followed by some type of event. That's a warning of some sort. I've never had these, but I have wondered when they occur if something was up. I've had a few occur in relative short times, but I don't recall it leading to anything significant one way or the other. I used to think it was meant I was on the right path, some sort of check-in, like, yep, you're on the right path. They eventually returned, so it wasn't getting older, as some of the research on this phenomenon suggests. Some people report seeing people in a dream, people they've never seen before, only to meet them the next week. Others see events in a dream only to have it happen the same day, giving them the deja vu. Others used to have deja vu quite often and then drastically change their lives, like moving across the country and starting a whole new life, where the deja vus never occur again. This didn't happen for me, but we can see there's a variation in spectrum of occurrences and types. What they have in common is a sort of sense of a premonition. So what exactly is going on? Well, here's what some researchers say about the phenomenon. Approximately 2/3 of the surveyed populations report experiencing deja vu at least one time in their life. The phenomenon manifests occasionally as a symptom of pre-seizure auras, and some researchers have associated chronic frequent pathological deja vu with neurological or psychiatric illness. Experiencing deja vu has been correlated with higher socioeconomic status, better educational attainment, and lower ages. People who travel often, frequently watch films, or frequently remember their dreams are also more likely to experience deja vu than others. Well, an interesting cross-section of humanity there. I can see the pre-seizure aspect to it. It does sort of fit with a sudden, almost convulsion-like quality, at least to the brain and soul, but I'm not quite sold that that's the case of the deja vu, and that this pre-seizure is making us recall something in rapid time. The other items there I cannot speak to. I was never in a higher socioeconomic status, and I don't think this part would hold up in a more rigorous study. It also may happen more frequently in lower ages, but I keep having them, and I'm not exactly a spring chicken anymore. None of this really explains what happens here. Does a pre-seizure make you relive a moment in your brain, cross your wires? Some scientists have come up with a theory that it's a result of our perception. The moment in time we all experience is the present. It doesn't actually happen in real time. There's a slight delay in the information our brain receives from our senses. This delay is normally buffered for us and everything runs in sync, but sometimes our brains get out of sync and this buffering goes faulty, allowing us to register the moment, and then like a self-correcting algorithm, we relive it again. I mostly run along with this theory as it makes the most sense. Except, it really doesn't. Not if we include the deja vus that have dreams occurring before these real events. Perhaps the waking state ones that weren't precluded with a dream the person remembered beforehand, then this theory could fit. But not of the ones that act as premonitions. With these, you have to start to think maybe there's something more to this. But what? Are we psychic? At least some of us? We just don't know how to control it? If we are, what exactly does that mean? Does that mean we can tap into all sorts of other things that we have ruled out in physics? Carl Jung seemed to think so. Jung wrote, "The sentiment du deja vu is based, as I have found in a number of cases, on a foreknowledge in dreams, but we saw that this foreknowledge can also occur in the waking state." Pretty much sums up what I have concluded. In the movie The Matrix, a black cat occurs when the Matrix makes a system update or changes something. Could this be what's happening? Are we really in a simulation of some sort, and these glitches are a change to the system? With many people seeing changes in their own lives after these events, it does seem like it may be. And these changes doesn't have to happen to you. It could be a wider change that wouldn't directly affect you, but you'd pick up on it because there's a change. I would say these types of events that occur in the waking state where we feel like we have lived this moment before would be the type that falls into the glitch in the Matrix, whereas having dreamt this before could be something else. Jung thinks that unconscious mind has knowledge that supersedes the consciousness, and that there is something as synchronicity between the unconscious and conscious mind. Of course, this opens up another can of worms. Jung goes on. We conclude, therefore, that we have to expect a factor in the psyche that is not subject to the laws of time and space, as it is on the contrary capable of suppressing them to a certain extent. In other words, this factor is expected to manifest the qualities of time and spacelessness, i.e. eternity and ubiquity. Psychological experience knows of such a factor. It is what I call the archetype, which is ubiquitous to space and time, of course, relatively speaking. Jung alludes to the concept of a collective consciousness, where we all share and divide ourselves from it, and sometimes are able to tap into it. Sometimes, in cases of deja vu, unconsciously, like a glitch in consciousness. Now, this seems like a very spiritual idea. The idea of one consciousness that we're all part of it is a very old one, seen in many ancient and current religions, and also myths. It resonates so well with us because of this uneasiness, and then at the same time, the sense of knowing it's right when we hear about this concept. In my mind, this spiritual idea has been reborn within the matrix simulation theory. And this simulation theory makes just as much sense as the religious or spiritual version. Actually, in many ways, it makes more sense. However, the difference between these is I see that the spiritual version seems to have an out, an ability to be liberated from the matrix. And it's built in with the theory. Whereas the simulation theory doesn't offer any salvation. Unless we consider consciousness as something more than what we may think. If we are artificially created in an AI environment or a simulation, and maybe it's possible for artificial life to have consciousness. And if that's true, then maybe there is something in the Matrix that we do have the ability to liberate ourselves from it. Perhaps deja vu isn't a warning or the Matrix changing something. Perhaps it's a change to the Matrix that we ourselves has made with our own consciousness. Well, that's all for this episode. Let me know what you think in the comments. I would really like to hear your thoughts. Thank you for joining us, and have a good one.